You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome, listeners and viewers, to What's the T-Bev, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on the BQN. I'm your host, Christos Generis. Remember, you can watch What's the T-Bev on our YouTube channel of the same name or listen wherever you get your BQN podcasts. Please hit like and subscribe here on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a star rating and written review. That helps others to find the show. Well, I hope you all enjoyed the last two episodes of What the T-Bev. We kind of spent that covering New York Comic-Con at length and had two different guests on. And I kind of wanted to bring in just some listener feedback for the first time here on the show. Chrissy says, I can't wait for Picard Season 3. I loved your breakdown of all the new info. Thanks, Chrissy. Missing your podcast right now. Hope to see it again soon. Mario says, good episode, Christos, and guest two, Mr. Davey Willett. Excellent knowledge on Trek and options. Keep them coming, friend. End transmission. Thank you, Mario. Miss you. Hope to see you soon. And Davey himself, who was on episode 4, had a little bit of disagreement on some of our Discovery discussion last week. Davey says, so have to disagree on your comments about too much of what Discovery is doing being in your face. I understand what you were trying to say, but there are many people in the LGBTQIA rainbow who have been severely underrepresented for quite some time. I'm happy to see a bit over / equal representation for a while. Great show overall, Christos. Great to meet Justin as well. Glad my episode isn't the only feature-length one. Yeah, we got a little bit long on the last two episodes. Yeah, say what you will about Discovery. Like I said, I knew it was a little controversial. People would have different views on that. But the great thing is everyone's entitled to their opinion. So thank you for that, Davey. All right, I'd like to introduce this week's guest, somebody I have actually not spoken to until today, which will be a first for What's the T-Bev. I found this guy online on Twitter, and we've been chatting in the DMs for a few weeks now, and I'm glad to finally have him on What's the T-Bev. I'd like to introduce my guest for the week, Joshua Bren. Hey, Josh, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to finally have you on.
Thank you. It's good to be on here.
Yeah, like I said, it's been, I don't know how long we've been talking, actually. We've been DMing for a couple of months now,
It was before you went on the cruise.
Oh, wow. It's been a long time.
Because you were making me very jealous with the pictures of who you were meeting.
The cruise is definitely amazing. Hopefully you get to come sometime. But you had your first con earlier this year.
Yeah, back in April, I went to Mission Chicago. First Star Trek convention ever, and I was a little nervous going there, but it ended up being a blast.
Yeah, it always seems like you're a little nervous going in, but when you get there, it's just nothing but Trek family and meeting amazing like-minded people, which is actually pretty cool. So your cosplay is pretty spot on. Those of you who are actually watching on YouTube, I've been sharing some slides on that, and actually I've dropped a few pictures of Josh on Twitter and Instagram kind of leading up to this. Definitely quite the master of not just cosplay, but specifically some DS9 cosplay. So that might give me a little bit of a little bit more insight into you as we jump into these questions. All right. So are you ready for Trekking to Know You?
Yeah.
So, Trekking to Know You. This is where we ask our guests every week 7 or 8 different Star Trek related questions. and get a great insight into their fandom as a result. So, checking to know you, Josh, what was your first contact with Star Trek?
So my mother and one of my brothers used to watch the Star Trek original series on repeat when I was a kid, and I just thought it looked hokey. I had nothing to do with it. So fast forward several years to when I'm in, I think, elementary school. Maybe it was middle school. But we would always watch Reading Rainbow while we were in school, like during an hour, during one of the periods of the day. And of course, LeVar Burton, Geordie LaForge was on it, and he did one episode where they went to the set of TNG. And I watched it, and I was like, wow, that doesn't look like the Star Trek that my mom and brother watched, and it looked actually kind of cool. And I think they were in their third season, or I think it was second or third season. It was an older one. But, so I thought it was kind of cool. So I checked out a couple episodes, didn't really super jump on, follow it, and then I think, what was it, the end of the fifth season of TNG, they announced Deep Space Nine coming out. And I was like, okay, I want to check out this one. So I was able to jump into it from the very beginning, and that's how I got into Star Trek.
Awesome. I actually remember that Reading Rainbow episode. So for some context here, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
43.
43. Okay, good. So I'm 45, so you're probably just about like where I was, and kind of like being really into it there as a teenager, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's your favorite Trek series?
Deep Space Nine.
No.
Hardcore. I would love to meet someone that knows more about Deep Space Nine than me.
Oh my God, we needed you to be on Trexperts last week when I got my ass handed to me. Maybe that'll be a special, like, I can arrange that, for you to go up against Kelvin. That would be a fun episode. We could have to talk to Davey about that.
I'd do it.
So what about DS9 gets you excited?
Well, the typical that everybody says is the character building and the arcs, which is great, but in my opinion, I think a space station is going to happen before we travel at warp. So to me, Deep Space Nine is the most real.
Yeah. I like that. I think that's a good thought about it. So what is your favorite Trek episode?
My favorite Trek episode, obviously, is going to be from Deep Space Nine. And I really do like In the Pale Moonlight. It's a really popular Deep Space Nine episode.
It's a fake.
I really like that. But I also, and I just posted about this on my Twitter not that long ago, I really like the season 2 3-part opener. Well, it's kind of 4-part opener from the end of season 1, but I like when Kai Wynn is introduced and the circle with the Bajorans. I just think it shows some really cool character change just in their first season that they had. They're just starting out season 2, and you can just see a lot more depth come out in the series.
Yeah, season 2 I think aired along season 7 of TNG, and I remember being blown away at like a 3-parter. Like, wow, right. That's ambitious, right? Yeah.
Right. At that time, it was just all serialized, and
yeah, I have started my season 2 rewatch after that debacle that was Trexpert episode 2.
It's a good season. There's a lot of good episodes in it.
It is. It's like, it's kind of funny too. It's like every time I get challenged to go back and watch something that I didn't used to think too highly of. Normally it's like, oh yeah, no, it's actually really good. I've gotten older and I evolved a little bit and I appreciate it more. So
oh yeah, I mean, even like some of the most hated Deep Space Nine episodes, I'll watch them and I'll just be like, this is pure genius. Like the Alan Moraine, the Move Along Home episode. Yeah. People hate that episode. And I'm just like, that's fine. You go ahead and hate it. I love watching it. Well, I think it's hilarious.
That's the nice thing about Trek is even when it's bad, it's still kind of good. But I just watched literally this morning the Samaritan Snare season 2 TNG
with the Packlids, right?
With the Packlids, right? And I'm like,
you're smart.
I kind of like this episode. I mean, Riker's being a little over anxious, but I liked it, and I actually kind of liked the bickering between Picard and Pulaski. I was like, that woman.
Yeah, it's
almost
funny.
Like, yeah, I'm like, like, because I tend to like not watch a lot of season 2 at TNG and really even avoid season 1 to a certain extent. Because it's not good is the reputation.
It's different.
There's
It's
some
different.
good ones. There's some good ones in there. All right. Let's see here. Favorite movie. So this is not going to be a DS9 related
Right.
answer.
I really like First Contact. Generations was the first one I saw in theater. And I liked it. I thought it was cool to see Star Trek on a big screen. But First Contact was just really cool. I don't know if it was out there or if it was said, but when I saw it, I didn't know that the Vulcans were the first contact. I don't know why. And so when the ship opened, I was like, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? And I'm like, oh God, it's the Vulcans. So I was just, I don't know. As a kid, I just thought it was kind of cool.
So you're right. It had never been said before. It was technically establishing canon in that movie.
Okay.
But it was kind of like, it was one of the most predictable things that I still felt amazing about. Like, how could it not be the Vulcans?
It was really cool.
You know?
I really liked that.
Yeah. I loved it. I had no problem with it. It was news at the time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to enjoy the next 2 questions because I'm not quite sure how you're going to answer it. I have an idea, but I'm not sure. So, and I only know this based on your Twitter posts and all that. So, I have no insight, listeners. So, who is your favorite character?
It's really neck and neck. I really like Nana Visitor, Kira, and Armin Shimmerman as Quark. They've always been my 2 favorites. I love them. And they don't even really interact that much with each other. But just, I love strong women. And I love women that, like, they don't take crap. And Kira, just from the get-go, was like, no. And I really like it, And I just thought it was funny. Yeah. And Quark is just so human. And in this time period, that's how us humans are. And so he's just so human. It's hilarious to see how we look in the future.
Yeah,
how we looked back
he's
then.
He's definitely the mirror for capitalism and all of that stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I love his outfits a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're
I would love to have someone, there's a Etsy person that I've been in communications with, and I'm like, I would love a Ferengi uniform, and she makes them, and I just got to save up quite a bit of money for it, but I really do want like a Ferengi outfit that Quark would wear.
Yeah, cosplay is not cheap, right?
No, it's not.
not if you're doing it right, too. If you're trying to do it really accurate, like I know a lot of us are graduating to that level of wanting to really hit it. I loved Kira from literally The Emissary. That was like from episode 1. She was my favorite DS9 character, and it still is. Which it's kind of funny. Sometimes those things change over years, but
right.
That's never changed for me. And for all the same reason, it's really great to hear you just kind of confirm what every other gay man has said as they come on this podcast, that it's
like strong women,
badass women, and it's like. I love that, it tends to be gay men that prop women up and women that also prop up gay men. And, and it's a nice relationship there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So because of the way you answered question 5, I get to ask you question 6. Who is your favorite captain?
Cisco, all the way. He's so badass. I love him.
Yeah. Yeah. He's definitely not Picard.
Right, he's not. And I wish I would have went to cons back when I was younger, because it would have been amazing to have met him. Yeah. Just the energy he gives off just when I see like interviews with him it's really cool. I mean, he'd probably intimidate me a little bit, not gonna lie. But it would be hard not to be intimidated by him. I think he's like the final frontier too, in terms of cons, because he literally hasn't done them in a long time. Mm-hmm. So unless you're like part of the OG con people, most people don't have a picture with him. And everyone's kind of interacted with, or it could have and can still interact with like the Kate Mulgrews and whatnot, and Jonathan Frakes and even Patrick Stewart here and there. But yeah, he's been kind of just
MIA from the con scene for so long now.
I mean, and
incredible.
There's a lot of people that I would have really liked to have met and that have passed, like, Nichelle Nichols I would have loved to have met, and Aaron Eisenberg. I think they were both incredible people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they were. Actually, I had the opportunity to meet and speak with both of them. And you're right. Viewers, listeners, I will say, I mean, don't wait. Some of our stars are definitely getting up there in age, and then ultimately, in life, you just never know when something's going to happen. I mean, just look at Leslie Jordan passing away at 67, right, which is a very young age.
Oh my gosh!
Who also played a Ferengi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
There is a Trek connection in there, but yeah, go. Like I said, if you got the opportunity to go to a con, go to STLV, whatever, do it. What is your favorite starship?
You ready for the shocker? The Defiant. I actually really like the Excelsior too, though, to be honest, because I think it looks really chic.
Oh, me too.
So
yeah.
I always thought it looked hot. I thought they would have did more with it. I mean, it just seemed like it had such a setup to be a big thing. In what was it, Star Trek 4? When Sulu gets...
They introduced it in 3.
3, okay. It seemed like, oh, this is where they're gonna go. They're gonna do this now, and then it just didn't really take off. I mean, you see it in the background in TNG, and I think it's in the Dominion War a couple times. But I thought it'd be bigger. This transwarp thing, I was like, oh, cool, it's a new thing, and they just didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of the Defiant. I think it's a tight little ship that it looks like it can kick ass.
Yeah. It's like I like the way the backstory they gave it, that it was ship designed to fight the Borg and literally just meant to be a warship.
Right.
It was the perfect way to get that to DS9, not have it be overtly big, so the show didn't become about the ship too much, and still kept it about the space station. So I thought it was handled very, very, very well.
I do too. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So this is the fun question, because you can answer it however you like. But what does Star Trek mean to you?
I think it gets such a positive look at the future. Like, everybody says, oh, that was a tough year. Every year is tough. There's challenges every year with things, and Star Trek just always makes it look like, eventually we're going to get through a lot of the bad stuff, and it's gonna be okay. I like a lot of sci-fi. I like Star Wars too, but it's all about wars, and I don't know. It's just, it doesn't always seem like the most happiest future. So while I do appreciate the Star Wars industry and I've seen all the movies, I like how Star Trek paints the future.
Yeah, I like that. I'm with you too. I like Star Wars as well, and the universes are so different that I have a hard time swinging back and forth. Before all these streaming shows were created, I would get on a kick of watching Star Trek for a while, and then I would have to, I'd almost take a time out from Star Trek and then go do Star Wars for a while, because it really is like putting your brain in a different mode. And now we're at this point where even this week there were new episodes of Star Trek and new episodes of Star Wars. So
I know, I saw that.
you got to kind of have to how am I going from Andor to Lower Decks? But we managed nonetheless. It's a good time to be a fan, as I like to say.
Oh yeah, it's a great time. Yeah. There's so much Star Trek out right now.
Yeah.
When they announced, that there's a couple more shows coming, I'm like, oh my god, yes! Just give me so much Star Trek. I hate when there's gaps.
So I'll ask you a fun question. Of the 5 current running shows, do you have a favorite?
That is so hard. I like the variety of what's out right now. It's not all same show, different ship. There's just so much going on. Lower Decks really stands out. I'm not a Rick and Morty fan, and everyone is like, oh, Lower Decks is awesome, it's like Rick and Morty. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, I really like it. It's like, I like the animated series back in the day. And so as a cartoon, sometimes I think people don't always take it serious as Trek, but Mike McMahon loves Star Trek. And so
Yeah.
he puts so much of that into his shows. It's incredible. And all the Easter eggs. I mean, there's things I don't even pick up. And I watch shows so weird. I don't always look at who's talking. I'm like, what's in the background? What did they just say? And so, I don't know. Lower Decks really sticks out. And I think it's really entertaining.
Yeah, perfect segue, actually, because I didn't know you were going to answer it that way, but we were going to talk about the season finale of Lower Decks. But yeah, you're right. Do you ever watch Trek Culture on YouTube?
I think I have. I think I have.
It's usually hosted by Sean Farrig, but then there's a couple of other hosts. But
Is that the one where he does his ups and downs?
Yes.
Okay, then yes. Okay,
Yeah.
I've seen that.
I mean, the ups and downs are fine because I mean I don't necessarily need his ups and downs because I can make my own decisions on what I like. But I do love when they do like the cetacean ops part and show you all the Easter eggs and show me the million things that went over my head that I missed.
Oh, that collector episode of Lower Decks. Oh my God, all this stuff in the background. I was freaking out.
Yeah, well, not just that, but I mean, and sometimes it's just the pace of the show. If you like in this finale, they're getting ready. They're trying to save the California class, so they're getting ready to do these missions really fast, right? And Dr. Ta'ana's running around saying, "I didn't spend 5 years on an Oberth class vessel to get it ruined now,
right.
To end up at a station somewhere, i.e., if I lose my job on the California class." But I'm like, the Oberth vessel is that ugly looking one that was the Grissom. And
you don't like it?
Oh,
I think it's cool. It looks like a disc that's holding onto a bus going through space.
Yeah. So I don't completely dislike it. I think the design needs to be zhuzhed up a little bit. I think it makes no sense that the front is just a point like the back in the engineering section, like the secondary hull, I guess is what you call it. Like, where's the deflector dish? Like what's, I just think it needs a little zhuzhing and it but yeah, but just that though, that little drop by Ta'ana, like references a whole whole other starship design that, and the inside joke about it, right?
Right.
But so what did you think of the finale?
I liked it. There's surprisingly, for a cartoon, there's been a couple episodes that have brought tears to my eyes. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm crying in a cartoon. But like obviously the Deep Space Nine one stuck out in my head immensely. Yeah. But the season finale, I thought they did a really good job. I like the idea of the Alito, these Texas class. I thought that was kind of a cool concept. I'm like, why we've never thought of this in Star Trek before? So I mean, they ended up turning it bad, and I get that, but I just thought that would have been kind of cool to explore that a little bit more. I would have liked to see the inside.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't get, really the whole idea of the Texas class only survived an episode and a half, maybe. But, it would have been cool to see a little bit more. Maybe we will in the future, like
it just, that seems realistic to me. Is like
the concept is there, even just because our Admiral Buen Amigo took some shortcuts to get it done.
Yeah,
doesn't mean that they can't revisit it. I did like how the season kind of snuck up on you as the season went. We didn't seem to really think, other than the massive character development that was happening most of the season. We didn't quite get a storyline throughput, but it was there kind of all along with, Buen Amigo setting up Freeman the entire throughout the whole time. That was him kind of pulling the strings. I we finally got answers to a lot of things. I like that we finally got the end story on Rutherford's.
Yeah, I like that they finished things off.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not a big fan of things taking forever to pay off. Like, okay, we've kind of been wondering about his implant for 3 seasons now.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up. And so I like that it's wrapped up.
Right. I agree.
It kind of clears the deck for whatever's going to come next and tell some new stories. So.
Yeah. And did you watch the end after the credits rolled?
Yes.
I had to go back. I didn't know that there was one. I saw someone say something online. You got to go back and look at the credits.
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
think I
oh,
saw a Twitter post that said watch to the end of the credits, so I just kept watching. So it
okay.
really wasn't a spoiler. It was more of a just a heads up because I would not have made it that far past. Generally, Star Trek's not known for its end credit scene, so
Right. I think it said that
you
it was
know,
the first time they've ever done that.
yeah. Yeah, I liked it. I think the only thing they didn't wrap up was Mariner and Jennifer. Like they kind of
Yeah.
broke up, sort of. I guess they did break up. Like, and she just kind of walked past her getting back on the ship. So I guess that's going to be
Discuss
season
next
four
season.
story. Yeah, and I love that the little Vulcan girl
Oh my
cadet came
gosh, yeah.
back.
Yeah. Because we were wondering, like,
Oh
what happened to her?
yeah, I think I heard Mike McMahon say had they realized how popular she was going to be in season 2, they would have brought her back in earlier in season 3. But these seasons are well planned out ahead of time. So like even
Right.
now, as season 3 was airing, I think they pretty much got season 4 all written and it's already into animation and things like that. So it's really hard to react fast on these animated shows
Yeah.
to fan input. You mentioned the DS9 episode. I kind of wanted to throw that back at you for a second there. Is there any particular thing about the DS9 episode, since you are like the big DS9 fan, that you really
I
enjoyed?
thought it was really well written. A couple of people that I know like DS9, like me, they were always like, why didn't we ever get a movie? And I would love that they would have more stuff about DS9, like show what this person's doing, blah blah. Like we're getting so much love for Voyager and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, you know what? My opinion is DS9 was a very well written series, and it had an excellent ending. And to just sit there and try to force these stories to come back, I'm like, just let it end beautifully.
Yeah,
Like when they're panning away with Kira and Cisco, Jake, looking out the window, I'm like, that was just such a good finale that I didn't think
yeah.
they needed to touch it again. So I knew that they were going to be going to Deep Space Nine this season in Lower Decks, and I was like, oh god. I was like, are they just gonna make
You're
fun of
nervous,
it?
right?
Yeah, I got nervous. But the thing about just keep circling in all the pylons, oh my god, I laughed so hard. I'm like, this is so dumb, but that is what they're
Yeah,
doing.
but and it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous, the animation and the
Yes.
way
Oh
they
my
kept
gosh.
the way they used the music and the wormhole opening and stuff like that. It was
Oh my god, it
awesome.
sent me chills down my spine.
Yeah,
And then I try not when on Thursdays when the new treks always come out, I try to stay off of Twitter just because people post stuff.
hmm
And I read a little clip that it was really Nana and Armin that were voicing their characters, and I was like, oh my god, my two favorite Deep
Buddy
Space Nine characters. So I like once
are
we
back.
watched the show, yeah, and I was like, oh my god, that sounds so cool. And then at first I didn't believe that it was Armin because it sounded weird,
Yeah,
and so I was like, is that Armin? But then I'd heard a story that he was talking without his teeth or not his original teeth that he had when he was Quark in the show or something like that. So I was like, oh,
yeah, like
okay.
yeah. Something they were made after the fact for something else,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, he didn't really act with those. But I mean, it was good enough. I'll take it. Yeah, we had. I think I talked about this on a prior episode. That yeah, Nana was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Kira on 12, and I did enjoy Armin as Quark again. It wasn't quite the exact voice, so it did. Like I said, I kind of kept wondering. It was taking me out of it a little bit, actually, and just kind of out of the episode. Like, is that him? And you're listening
Yeah.
really hard, but yeah, great episode
Yeah.
though. And I don't know that that's the end of that. We'll see.
I
Maybe
hope
I think
not.
that
I mean, that'd be cool.
yeah, yeah. So moving on, we also had like a double feature this
Mm-hmm.
week. We got the finale of Lower Decks and the premiere of Prodigy season 1B,
Mm-hmm.
episode 11 of Prodigy. And so Prodigy's back. First thoughts? Are you a Prodigy fan? And what did you
I
think?
am. I really love Prodigy, and I'm like, there's some things that are in it that are so deep. I'm like, this is really a children's show. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't view it as a children's show at all. I just see it as another Trek to be watching right now.
yeah,
And no, I think it's really well done. I like all the characters. I hope that Murph gets a little more thing. I mean, there's a lot of love for Murph right now. I'm like, he's not really doing a lot, but I know a lot of people like him.
Yeah, I think Murph is supposed to go through like a transformation this season. They're kind of they've teased that, like, his species kind of evolves, like, or it's part of their, I guess, aging process that
Oh, okay.
they like I don't know, call it a molting or something, but it made it sound like he's some sort of space worm that apparently Wesley Crusher um, mentions in, I think, Coming of Age in
I
season
heard about
one.
that,
He
yeah.
he like throws it as an insult at somebody, but I'm like, how would you say that as an insult? Murph is so adorable.
Right, he is
Um,
adorable.
but I think we'll see a little bit more Murph, and we've seen Murph do some crazy things in the first part of season one. So I
Hmm.
think we'll
I mean, he's
get
definitely
them into
cute.
it there.
I'm just like waiting for him to have a big purpose
Yeah,
so far. But
yeah,
I like everybody on the show. I think they're hilarious.
yeah.
Dell has already grown in just this little bit of time, and when he hugged Janeway, that was a little touching. And I was like,
I teared up a little bit, and I like,
yeah.
and I had not been drinking. Like sometimes, it's like if I have a drink or two, I tend to get more emotional than I already am. No, I was perfectly fine watching these shows on Thursday, and I think both shows made me tear up at one point. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, to your point, if
Yeah.
animation is provoking emotion from me, they're really hitting on all
Oh my
cylinders.
gosh, yeah. Like in Lower Decks when all the California ships showed up, I was like, oh my
Exactly.
god.
Yeah, and being a Southern Californian, I loved hearing all these cities get called out,
That was really cool.
yeah, like, yeah, I love the Carlsbad. I'm like, okay, I know Carlsbad. It's not far from here.
Not being a
Uh,
Californian, I mean, I recognize a lot of the names, but
yeah, yeah. So we saw a little bit of Vice Admiral Janeway kind of playing on the holodeck, watching her say goodbye to Chakotay. I kind of getting a little bit of what her, what's driving her desire to find the protostar so much and
right.
find Chakotay.
That'll be
Um,
interesting to
um,
see. I hope they don't speed it up too fast.
yeah,
I don't want them to like in this season. I don't want them to get back to like Earth already. I want there
yeah,
to be more stuff to go on because then I feel like they're gonna run out of things.
yeah. Agreed. I just hope that, like, we saw now what the bad code in the protostar can do to a Starfleet,
Yeah.
by the destruction of the communication station, and that basically infected their computers. And I have a feeling now, since that the guy who was working on the station did escape, my prediction is the Dauntless is going to pick him up, and oh yeah, the Protostar, it's got these renegades on it, and they destroyed the station, and it's really going to drive this idea that, of trying to recover the Protostar, and that it's these kids aren't good. I just hope that this virus storyline does not go on forever. I
Yeah.
mean, well, I think they've done a really good job here coming back with episode 11. Not only did they kind of recap a lot of last season, in case you forgot, I think that it came out really strong, and it kind of leaves you wanting to be ready wanting more, and you're kind of ready for the rest of the season, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we have a lot of Prodigy merchandise either now rolling out and on the way. There's action figures coming by Christmas, apparently. And um, they did the little Murph plushie at New York Comic
Oh my
Con.
gosh, that
And
is so popular.
yeah, I know. I'm like, I don't need one, but there's the video game we talked about last week on the show. And just lots of comic books coming,
Hmm.
books coming. I just there's a lot. I mean, it's a kids show, so there needs to be
Right.
stuff for kids, right? I think they're talking about a toy Protostar coming.
I would buy
Yeah,
that.
I know exactly. I would buy that, and I probably would buy the action figure for hologram Janeway when that. I think that's already
Okay.
been announced. So nice, nice, nice. Okay. Also, this week, it was the release of the IDW comic Star Trek, which is takes place between the movies Insurrection and Nemesis, and features Benjamin Sisko's return from the wormhole. Did you read this?
I did.
Okay,
I
good.
did.
Woo! I'm like,
And
I'm talking about it all by myself.
and I don't know. I have a little opinions about it. I like the story. Yes, I know someday he may come back, but I just think it should, if it's gonna come back, it would be in like a show and not a comic. And I don't know. It's just weird. It also bugged me
Well,
because they called her Commander Kira, and she's Colonel Kira.
right, and I don't
And
know
so I'm
what's
like, you're
changed
getting the
about that.
titles.
Well, they called it like Federation Outpost Designation Deep Space Nine. Um, I was like, okay. And then Jake Sisko mentioned something, I think, in the prologue of the comic about being just a little kid, like 2 years old when Wolf 359 happened and the
hmm
Borg took. And I'm like, he wasn't 2 years old because
Yeah.
when DS9 starts, he's already like 12, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
And it was only 3 years prior, so he would have been like 8 or 9, maybe,
Yeah.
when
I just had a
his
couple
mom died.
discrepancies about things in it,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm like, don't they have anybody proving these things? Because as a diehard, there's no better way to take you out of it, and than with a like you know the everyday casual Star Trek fan knows these things, right? I mean,
Right.
you don't need a Kelvin Wood to know that that was wrong. Shout out to Kelvin. Uh, so another thing, there's like 8 different covers to this comic book for the collectors out there. I mean, the complete rape that IDW does of Star Trek fans to try to get you to spend your money 8 times over for the same exact content.
Right?
But I bought 2 comic. Guess which ones they were?
The two with Beverly on it.
That is correct.
I actually bought the other one.
You bought yeah, there was
With just Cisco.
yeah. People listening, I have 3 of the 8 covers on the screen right now. And, yeah, there's one with just Cisco, and I think there's 1 or 2 variants of that Cisco one. But
Yeah.
yeah, I use if when I mean, we have comic book stores here in San Diego, but when I need the collector covers, I know a particular site online that you can get comics from, and they usually have all the variant covers. So
Okay.
it's depending on, try to buy them locally when I can, and if I really don't care about the title, I buy it digitally, just for environmental purposes. But yeah, it was a good comic, good start off. Cisco comes back apparently, and the longer Cisco's back, the less he can remember. It's kind of like waking up from a dream, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's harder to remember your dream as the day goes on, it seems. But there's something wrong. There's a threat to the prophets that they cannot take care of themselves, that they need Cisco in corporeal form to go take care of. And he asks Jean-Luc for a starship, and Jean-Luc gives it to him, and
And
sends
everything is
Data
just
and
like normal.
Beverly.
He's just back.
Yeah, he sends Data and Beverly to go help. Well, he sends Data specifically. Beverly seems to be there as a volunteer because she's intrigued at the idea of what's going on with him being alive or not alive, and he was missing and now he's back. So like he defies you know, all common laws of physics and medicine, and
Right.
so Beverly's scientifically intrigued, and that's why she's on it. And but yeah, they kind of take off on their mission, and I'm trying not to say too much because I don't want to spoil it too much, but it definitely sets things up. And I will say, for a first issue, a lot happens for
Oh
a
yeah,
first
there
issue.
was a
It
lot.
wasn't a lot of. It wasn't just setting things up. They get going on their mission, and already things start to happen. So, not a bad first read.
Yeah, I'll definitely buy the rest
Um,
of them.
yeah. Viewers and listeners, if you've read this comic, drop us some comments on what you think of it. We'll probably keep on talking about this in future episodes, but I like where it's going. But don't want to say too much more than that to completely spoil it. So, in terms of Star Trek merchandise, Super 7 announced just the other day the new Star Trek The Next Generation Ultimates, Wave 1. They're 7-inch figures. The first way, or these first figures, were very generic, kind of almost retro figures. These new figures are 7-inch, highly articulated, highly detailed figures that cost $55 a piece and come with a barrage of accessories, including multiple heads and hands and props that are very appropriate from the series and the movies for those figures. So Wave 1 includes Guinan, Riker, Data, and Locutus. And I think they're coming out next spring. You can order them now. I'm really intrigued because these are basically the same size of the Diamond Select figures. So Josh, what do you think of these figures?
They look cool. I mean, I have over 300 Playmates figures at like the 5-inch scale. So to me, it would be a waste to buy these because I'm not going to put, a big 7-inch figure next to my little 5-inch. Plus, it's all people that I have already. So I will probably pass on them. I mean, they look cool. I like when you get really detailed, but I'm all more for the Playmates figures that are being released now.
Yeah. I'm trying to decide how I feel about these figures. I could see myself collecting a few. Like, there's no way.
Maybe if you have like a favorite person, like when Beverly comes out, maybe get that.
Yeah. I think she'll be in Wave 2, and I would hope she'll be in Wave 2, and that would definitely be a pickup for me. It was surprising. I mean, I know we got Locutus, but it's very surprising that we're not getting Picard in Wave 1.
Right.
Usually.
What a random way to release them.
Yeah, and it's really funny that, like, even with the Playmates figures that just were released, we got Riker and Data.
Right.
So,
I mean, I didn't buy those. The only ones I bought were Saru and Michael, just because I don't have those figures.
Right. They've never
So I'm like,
released.
why do I want another Data?
Yeah. I did pick up everything but Khan, ironically. I don't know why. I think they were just there and they were $12. They were on sale. So I caved and bought them. I haven't even opened them yet. I'm kind of I probably will open them, but I just haven't really had the time, I guess, to really sit down and do something proper with it. So, these look great, though. I mean, for the collector, they're really well done. I mean, let me back this up. I mean, if these were even, we'll compare these to the Playmates, because we heard your statement about having 300 Playmates. If this were a Super 7 Star Trek DS9 Ultimates, would you engage?
I probably would not, because I have all of my stuff in my scale. Like, all my figures that I have next to each other look really good, and it would just look weird to see these random big figures next to. I mean, there's a couple Playmates toward the end in the 90s. Like, I want to say it's maybe 99. They started making some 7-inch, like there's a Cisco and a Jadzia and a Cardassian. I don't own them.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that would look so weird next to my figures.
Yeah. When Playmates stepped in it for me was when the first Contact figures came out, and they were bigger.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these are dumb. They don't mesh up with the other ones.
Right. And I know that they can make more details then, but I don't know. It's odd. Yeah. And also, I'm so curious, since when did Guinan have like a phaser rifle like that?
Oh, she did.
Really? Why don't I remember that?
Yeah, it's in Sarek.
Really?
Okay, so go watch the episode Sarek I'm pretty sure it's Sarek, when they're the fight breaks out in 10 Forward. I think that's how she takes control of the room again, was kind of blasting the ceiling with that phaser rifle.
Wow, okay. I'll have to go watch that again, because I do not remember her having that.
Yeah, I hope I'm not confusing my details here. I'm pretty sure it happened in the Sarek episode in season 3.
Okay.
But yes, it was definitely on screen.
Okay. All right.
I like that she has her hands from the Q episode from
season 2. That is cool. I do like that.
The Borg, where she does her little thing, her pose.
And that is something that's cool with these bigger figures. You can do things like that.
Yeah.
So
I just know, I'll say this out loud, when the Beverly Crusher figure comes out, you know she's going to have that damn lamp. And if she doesn't, I'll be mad.
you can always make a custom one.
Yeah. Yeah. Finally, I will remind viewers and listeners, we have not forgot about Second Self, the Picard novel. I did finish my Star Wars novel, The Princess and the Scoundrel, about Han Solo and Princess Leia's marriage. And I am now into Second Self. And let me tell you, I am all about it. And I will tell you, Josh, if you are a Garrick fan, you might want to give this novel a listen. I'm only like a
Oh,
few chapters in, and um, the Rafi's been sent to go find somebody, and it's Garrick, and that's pretty much not a spoiler. That's how the novel kind of starts. And I was not expecting a DS9 tie-in, and
wow.
I mean, the book itself is dealing with fallout from the Dominion War and the repatriation of war criminals from Cardassia to Bajor. And I was not expecting this, like
Wow.
this whole Bajor Dominion War element of the novel. I'm like, it's Picard. We're gonna go do something, right?
Yeah,
But it's definitely a Rafi novel. I'm really, really enjoying it, kind of savoring it. Actually,
I'll have to check
it's
it
good
out.
from the start, kind of a thing. So, listeners, I hope to have James on in the next couple of weeks to talk about this. All right. So now's my fun question for you, and I kind of know what you're gonna say about this, but I don't know in what context. So I'm gonna listen to this. So Josh, if you could create the next Trek series, what would it be?
Um, I always thought it would be cool to do another alien culture that's not in the Federation and to just see how their life is and what they think of the Federation. And I'm a huge Romulan fan, so I really think it would be kind of cool to see a series start back in like the TOS era, like for like a season or two, and just kind of advance and see what the Federation has done to them. I think it'd be cool to see from an outside perspective. I'm not a huge Klingon fan, so I don't need to see a show take place on Kronos, but I've always thought it'd be cool to do a Star Trek series where it's done with another alien culture. And the Federation comes in and out of their life and how it impacts their life. I don't know. I've always thought that's been really neat. And I know there's books out there like that, but
Yeah,
I think a series would be really cool that way.
I like that thought on that. I like that you gave probably the most original thought to that question of people. Time I've asked that of people. Most of us talk about like what's going to continue on from Picard, but
Mm.
well, all right. So next week we'll be back with the incomparable Sean Ferrick as my guest. Somebody I have met before at STLV this last year. We would love to hear what you thought of today's episode and hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, to continue our discussion there. You can also tweet your thoughts to at What's the TBev. We would love for you to reach out and interact. Please follow the network on Twitter and on Instagram at BQN Podcast. Don't forget all of our other great shows on BQN Podcasts like Galaxy Class, All Good Things, Union Federation, Infinite Diversity, Mickey's Marvels, and History with the Zalagis. So, Josh, where can people find you when you're not hanging around the wormhole?
I'm really active on my Twitter. It's at CRONAJ. It's where I like all my Star Trek fans, all my Star Trek info, so I'm real active on there.
Nice, nice. Like I said, that's where I found you to begin with. And you can find me, Christos, at Greek Geek SD or at What's the TBev. At this time, we would like to thank our associate producer and episode 4 guest, Mr. Davey Willett. If you'd like to help us keep our shows coming to you each week, you can become a Patreon of the network on Patreon. Join the Hive to enjoy It's Green, Amy's Math Moments, and other network perks. With a monthly subscription of $5 or more, you can join our meetings on the Hive Mind on the second Saturday of each month. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages. Well, Josh, thank you again so much for coming on. I really have like enjoyed getting to know you. I mean,
Thank
this is
you.
truly my first really getting to know somebody that I, like I said, we have never spoken, at least in live voice, until maybe just 5 minutes before we started recording. So it really kind of fits what I always envisioned this program to be. So thank you for being the true first in that respect. And we hope to have you on again sometime.
Awesome. Thank you.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we hope you'll join us next time for more tea on What's the Tea, Bev?